It's something that I think in personal training development, one, it's not education. I love the emphasis on professionalism and service. And I think being in a facility that fosters that and having exposure to that day in, day out is, I think it's like really critical. Like I remember my first personal training job, like, and you could speak to an era like this better than I could. I feel like I was in like a tail end of this era where the personal trainers at the gym that I started at were, and not that I think this is a prerequisite, but we're fucking monsters. Like they were absolutely, like we would go out, I was 18 years old, I had a fake ID, and the Tecumseh Mall and Devonshire Mall Good Life trainers were like, bouncers would be on notice because they were just the biggest fucking dudes on the planet. And there was a pride when they were training, right? Like that their clients got strong and jacked, and like the clients would go out with them. I remember of all things going to a fucking Nickelback concert when I'm like 18 years old because some rich dude that one of the jack guys trained was also now jacked and just wanted to go to a concert with all his jacked friends. And so like we drove across the border to this fucking Nickelback concert. But there was a culture, there was a standard, almost like you said, of like, if you train here, like you better be a fucking top guy or you're not training here. And it's something that where, the result is so overlooked. Like, there's two ends of coaching from an education standpoint. There's like, maybe the more of like X's and O's. And there's also this like emerging coaching market of like the soft skills, which is like you said, you can't teach personality. So it's kind of an odd mix. And maybe you could throw even a third, like the business in there. But none of them are talking about results. And I think when you dig down to like, okay, when you're developing a trainer or a coach, that the signal to noise ratio on results is really potent when you start to look at like, hey, this person's not losing weight. Okay, why? Are you a fucking dial tone that walks around on his toes all day? Like, is that the problem? Like, if you're not looking this person in the eye in fucking 3 months, or do you not know enough about nutrition? It's just fucking white rice and tilapia. Like, I feel like that, or your client's not sticking with you because you're not professional. You're showing up late. You're on your phone or whatever. And it's so crazy to me that we're in an industry where that metric tracking is like a unique thing that you guys do, and it's something that you keep eyes on, and it allows you to be like, okay, hey, in your development, based off of this, we need to have a conversation around like one of these buckets, because it's something is falling through the cracks at the end of this funnel, and it's like we're not getting the result. How because I know a little bit about how your professional development works at Hybrid, but how do you treat the actual tracking of client metrics towards their previously stated goals as a success marker for your trainers?
So the way I do, it's huge. As far as I'm concerned, it's pretty much everything. Now, there's a few caveats to it, and but I learned the hard way, especially when I was younger, and first starting to manage. And I'm sure it's not a trainer individual issue, but because personal training and working with clients there's so many things that can be happening as to why a client's maybe not progressing. And it's not necessarily always the trainer's fault. I'm not saying it is, but what are we doing to make sure it's at least bare minimum, is it my fault, right? I'm doing everything I can. So I learned the hard way to literally back up every meeting I would have with anybody with stats, no matter what, because over time the stats don't lie, whether it's retention stats, whether it's results, whatever it is. I've worked with enough trainers now to know that, if a trainer, has had 20, 30 clients, how many really good, let's say, before and after pictures have they had? How many clients have they had that have lost like 30, 40, 50 pounds, or just big weight loss clients? You can see a consistency amongst the coaches if you look at the stats. If you ever have a conversation where there's no stats involved, and it's just my feeling, and I say, look, I don't think you're doing very good at your job, then everyone's going to be resistant to that straight away, because everyone feels they're the best personal trainer in the world. I've not spoke to many that don't think they're great. No matter what the conversation is, everyone thinks that they're better than they are, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're not trying. It just depends on what their level of great means to them. So then what I'll do is kind of like, right, okay, I always ask, what is it you think makes you a good trainer? Why do you think you're so good? which is a bit of a loaded question because I'm sat here with my stats board going, well, okay, this is what and again, I even have to get out my own way here because it's kind of, okay, this is the stats I have that I believe makes a good trainer, good coach over time, and what I believe is good for my business. Someone else might think it's a completely different list, but, you know, I'm going to look at retention, you know, so you've had X amount of clients since you've been here, you've kept this many, you've lost this many, and I have my own kind of percentages to what I think is good based on our industry standard as far as our model, sort of the 12-week programs sign-up model, because it is front heavy, it is expensive. You definitely can't keep everybody, but if someone's had 20 clients and lost all 20, even though there might be a big list of this person moved out of town, this person lost their job, this person this, I 100% agree with that, but not all 20 left for external reasons. Some of them left because they weren't getting the service. And the tricky thing in the personal training industry, and I know because it's been my job over years to send out the follow-up feedback email when someone's left and no one responds. No one will tell you, hey, it's because I didn't feel I was getting value. But by and large, when people drop off, I look at two things. First of all, when someone drops off and the trainer tells me whatever the reason was, I'll go and take a look at the stats. Did they lose any weight? What was their goal? Did they even come close to their goal? Yes or no? Still, someone could get a really good result and leave because now they think they can do it on their own. So that's good. I'm happy with that. If someone leaves for that reason, great, because we've just got a bunch of great marketing, right? But if I look at the stats and it's the opposite, and I'm like, okay, this person was with us 12 weeks. They physically haven't changed. They've not lost any weight. Okay, that might be a reason why they discontinue. They've just spent all this money expecting to get a great result and they've not changed at all. Now, again, might not even be that. All of this is a little subjective, but or if a client drops off with 1 or 2 sessions left, that's a big red flag. Now I'm like, okay, they didn't even want to have the conversation that they weren't continuing. So more likely than not, they didn't continue because they weren't getting the service. Now, I don't know exactly what part of the service sometimes that individual didn't feel they was getting outside of, did they get what they came for? And if they came to lose weight and they didn't lose weight, the answer is no. Chances are, you know, they didn't like what they were getting. I can't always put my finger on what it was. So I tend to back everything up with stats. And then the other side of the coin is I kind of see what I try and coach with my trainers is our job is to deliver the service no matter what. And along the way, adjust the service according to what the client's willing to do. And I see that part as an agreement. And I think where a lot of trainers go wrong is client sits down, I want to lose 20 odd pounds. Trainer's like, yes, go, this is what we're going to have to do. Can you do everything that I'm about to ask you to do? So can you stick to the training? Can you stick to the nutrition plan? Client's pretty excited. Yes, I can, go. And then a week in, it's not working. They can't follow it. They can't stick to it. We make a few adjustments, but there's no adjustment of timeline or the cost that week you've just lost is going to cost you. 2 weeks in, it's not working. 3 weeks in, I'm still making adjustments. The client's still not really got going yet. Client's not willing to track. Whatever it might be, there's no problem with what a client is or isn't willing to do. That's up to them. But my job as a professional, and this is where the professional side of it comes in as far as I'm concerned, is I have to be willing to tell you what your choice is, how your choices limit my coaching. And that's fine as long as we agree that if you're not going to, because you know, it's amazing. People come in to lose weight, but they don't want to weigh themselves and they don't want to track their food and they don't want to do all the stuff that's necessary. And you're kind of like, okay, great. Just understand, I under those circumstances, I don't know if you're going to lose weight. Are you okay with that, right? Or someone's not willing to do start on, let's say, a 30% deficit. I'm only willing to start on 10 or 15. I'm like, okay, so you know how we said we could maybe lose 20 pounds in 12 weeks? Maybe that's now going to take 18, 20, 22 weeks, whatever. Are you okay with that? New agreement. Yes, cool, let's go. That's the new target. And so for every adjustment we're making based on customer feedback, based on what they're willing to do, what they're not willing to do. Now, my job is always to get them towards that, let's say, gold standard of adherence. But all of a sudden, the promise we made over 12 weeks has changed. And if I don't adjust that promise, You'd be amazed how many clients still think that, but you said I could do this in 12 weeks. I was like, yes, under these circumstances. Under these circumstances, now we're here. Are you okay with that? And that's always my final thing is, are you okay with the new direction that we're going to go based on what you're willing to do, not willing to do, and based on my new solution for you getting to your ultimate goal, whatever that might be. And I think those are the conversations that a lot of trainers kind of struggle with. And because those conversations are not happening, especially when someone's not progressing, now the client's got it in their head that this isn't really working, it's expensive, I'm not really enjoying it, I'm not getting where I want to be, and then they just kind of drop off. So, that's how I see the accountability piece. It goes both ways, but I think it's on me as the coach to highlight those adjustments and are we in agreement. So when I'm highlighting if a client's done everything they can to keep hold of a client, those are the steps I'm looking at. Like, did we have these conversations? I can see the client's not lost any weight in 12 weeks. What was the reasons? And if it's, well, the client couldn't do this, the client couldn't. Okay, I see that you're shifting everything to the client, but what did you do? Show me the amount of adjustments you made to the meal plan. Show me, communication daily if it was necessary. Show me that you did everything you can do to deliver the service that we promise. And then if a client still hasn't progressed, let's say, or they still choose to move on, then I'm kind of all good because we delivered the service anyway. We're never going to be 100%. But what frustrates me is when the trainer gives up on the service because the client's not willing to do the things the trainer's asking them to do. And now the service is no longer the service, right? You live your life in hotels, right? There's a set service you expect in certain hotels, I would assume. Right? And you might not use all of it. I don't use all the fancy shampoos and shit. But if I've just paid $500 for a night in whatever, I don't know that many expensive hotels, and I always go to the same hotel. And the price hasn't changed. And all of a sudden they've got rid of the fancy soap. They've got rid of the little ear things that you clean your ears out with. All those little niceties that I don't really use but I appreciate. Then all of a sudden I'm out like, you know what, I don't think I'm going to that hotel again. They've lowered their standards. Their service wasn't what it was. And now I'm going somewhere else. And I didn't even use half of the service, but I'm paying for it. That's what annoys me. When someone's paying for the service, deliver the service no matter what. Doesn't matter how much of it they're using.